Welcome back to the neighborhood, boys and girls. Our next guest is my friend Tim Lynch. Tim, welcome to the neighborhood, my man.
Thanks, it's a pleasure to be here.
Tim is a HomeSmart real estate agent, member of Local
8, Local 52.
52.
IATSE.
Owner of Diane's House, nonprofit recovery houses? Something like that?
We are not a nonprofit.
Not a nonprofit, sorry.
But we are recovery houses, yep.
Okay.
Recovery houses. Takes up a lot of my time.
Sure.
Chunk of my life.
And then now you're doing also RV rentals?
Now we started an RV rental company and RV YouTube page, and I guess the Instagram's coming along too.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get into the content creation field because it kind of coincides a little bit with, you know, the film and music background that I had already.
Yeah.
So, RVs are kind of like real estate.
Yeah, I like that.
Right?
Real estate, I like that.
I got a bunch of rental houses already, so why not rent RVs too?
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest with you, it started out of necessity because I have friends that are still camping in tents. Mm-hmm. And I have a big Class A RV.
Right.
I get people camping in tents, and it's like, August, like, what are you doing still being in a tent? So I went and bought a travel trailer and said, look, it's got air conditioning, it's got a microwave, you know, a little bit of comforts of home, and, you know, you could use it. So I figured, why I have it, start renting it, and it's turned into something. So
nice.
Now we have 4 units now, and we're going to grow.
Yeah. So we always do a little bit of the previous stuff of the history, and I know you personally. So tell us a little bit about your journey. Now you're like all kinds of crazy entrepreneur. You can get as deep as you want or not as deep as you want, but I know you're a Delco kid, and how did you go from Delco to Timmy in West Deptford?
That's funny. That's funny. 'Cause I don't have the Delco moniker is like so like you could hear it. Obviously, you can hear it the way I talk. But yeah, I graduated from Upper Darby High School, and you know, via Northeast Philly originally, and then we you know, migrated out to Delco, and you know, I guess it was all rock and roll. Everything was rock and roll for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to just play guitar and hang out and, you know, sex and drugs and rock and roll. And that was my life for a long time. A long time.
And you've lived a really interesting life, and you've met some really cool people. Like, you were friendly, like very close friends with a lot of relatively famous people. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. But whatever.
Yeah, but that's cool though. You know what I mean? Like, you got to play music and sit backstage with Cinderella and a bunch of bands that were really, really popular. And like, most people talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but you got to kind of have the fun and the painful lifestyle as well. You know what I mean?
So there's a movie on Netflix now called The Dirt.
Okay.
It's a Motley Crue biopic.
Okay.
And that was my life. Like, if you watch The Dirt, except for Ozzy snorting ants.
Okay, that wasn't you. You didn't do that.
I would have probably, but
you didn't.
Like, I hung out with Tony Iommi and Geezer, and you know, the guitar player from Motorhead was back at my house, and we were, you know, doing whatever. And,
right.
And so that was my life for a long time.
Right.
You know, I was in LA when Cinderella was recording her last record, the Still Climbing record, with them, and you know, I was in Stephen Pearcy's garage. I feel like such a name dropper right now.
That's awesome.
But
the one really close friend of you that passed away, I don't even remember.
Jeff, yeah, Jeff's the guitar player from Cinderella.
Right.
Was my roommate. And
right.
He was, you know, a real close friend of mine, and yeah, he was just a really good dude, real solid, big giant heart, great guitar player, great musician, and you know, he was on the top of the world, and you know, we went for a ride together from the top to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. And now you're not back on top or anything like that, but you get to live a really cool and awesome life, and you help people out, and you do a bunch of stuff giving back, and you get to enjoy that stuff. Talk a little bit about the recovery houses and how that came about and what the main motivation is. They're named Diane's house for a reason.
Yeah.
Let's get into a little bit of the story for that.
So
real quick.
I'm glad you asked that. It's a good question. So because it's really important to me. It's close to home, and like I got clean and sober in 2006, and somewhere along the line I figured out how to. I got a hard money loan for the first house, and I bought the house with the intention of renting it to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I did a bunch of work to it, to get it livable again. And at the time, our friend Diane was sick with cancer. Diane helped so many people in our area. Mm-hmm. There was people detoxing in her house. She had bonfires in her backyard. They called it the ranch, and her and her husband, they just had all kind of people there, and very welcoming, very open. They helped a lot of people. So Diane was sick, and we knew the prognosis was not good. So literally one night, it sounds cliche as hell, but literally one night I was lying in bed, and I told my wife, I'm like, listen, I'm going to open the house. I'm going to call it Diane's house, and I'm going to put women in there. And my wife's like, you're fucking nuts.
Not the first time she said that, but yeah.
Not even that day. But she's like, you didn't know how to do that. And I didn't know how to do it, but I started doing research and I figured it out. And I used the experience that I have, I used the experience that other people had, and we got some guidelines together so that people can actually start living again.
Right.
Because that's my experience.
Sure.
I hit the bottom, bounced off the bottom, scraped my way in a little bit, and then started crawling my way back up with help. It's not like I don't think anybody gets through life alone by themselves, and so I think I could be that person as well. I could be that person that reaches the hand out to help pull somebody up. And most of the time with me, it's not me reaching my hand out directly. It's me out here.
Yeah.
Reaching somebody else's hand out to do that, but being the catalyst for it, and that's the way I can help. That's the way I can be of service to other people, and
And you guys do it the right way though. Like if anyone knows the recovery house industry, there's the churn and burn shops, and then there's the places that like you have someone who runs the houses. You have hard and fast rules. They have to get a job. They have to work on their recovery. You're not one of those bullshit recovery house money factory kind of places, Yeah,
it's definitely not about the money. Don't get me wrong; it is a retirement strategy for me because I own all the properties. However, we are the lowest cost recovery house in the area by far, and I try to keep it that way because I want people to buy houses from. I want people to save enough money and say, "Hey, I'm ready to go buy a house," and then I take them to go find houses. Yeah, which I've done more than once.
Yeah.
But that's the goal: lift people up and get them out, get them in and get them out, and stick to your system, stick to your guns ethically, and and then stuff starts happening. So one house turned into 2 houses, turned into 3 houses, and now we have multiple houses in Camden and Gloucester County, and and it's going to expand a little bit too. It's going to expand. Not necessarily in direct recovery houses, but I have opportunities for people that are in the houses to start doing other stuff in the RV world, in the rental world, and it seems to be working. So we're gonna keep going.
It's amazing and humbling to come from a sketchy background and be able to be a person that influences society in a positive way after years and years and years of being the negative one or the troublemaker. And to have a business or something where you can help people buy their first house, get off the streets, come out of treatment, get their life together, get their shit together, help them get a job, and in the end, the energy that you're putting out there is coming from your heart,
I always think to myself that, in the scales of life, I've taken so much, and so a little bit at a time, I put a little bit back, and I don't know if I ever balance them, but that's what I'm aiming for now. I'm aiming to balance the scales back a little bit, to not being a taker, to being more of a giver. Andrew Carnegie had a note that he had, and after he died, they found this note in his desk, and it said that I want to spend the first half of my life making money, and the second half of my life giving it away. I spent the first half of my life getting high and banging chicks, so I want to, do as much as I can to give back, and.
Even the scales, I like that analogy. You know what I mean? And it's definitely good. And you do employ some recovering addicts in a couple of the different businesses that you have. The latest one is the RVs. That's is that the one that's like more of like your brainchild because it's more of your business sense for it rather than the recovery stuff? It seems like you kind of get a kick out of that in the YouTube channel and doing this stuff. It seems like that's a little more Tim's personality.
It's new, right? And I get to learn. Like I'm learning how to edit. I'm learning how to 2-camera shoots by myself, and so that's all fun, and SEO stuff. That's all, it's cool. Plus, I get to write off my vacations too.
That's a great part. That's a great part.
So.
But it's kind of like, I know you personally. It's kind of not really who you are. Like even though you do really cool shit and you had a rock and roll life and everything like that. Like really, you're a kind of introverted, shy, humble person.
Behind the scenes more.
You'd rather not be in front of the camera. You'd rather not be the face of it. You'd rather be the push in the back. But you're doing really well with the videos that you put out and the content you're producing, and you're really natural with it. So it seems like it's a little bit of a growth mode for you, doing stuff that you're uncomfortable doing and learning from that stuff,
Yeah, I mean, being on stage is different than being one-on-one when you walk in and talking to somebody. Like when I would get on stage, when I was going to play a show, I would always have a guitar to hide behind for sure, but it was different than having a one-on-one conversation because there's a buffer. There's there's an invisible barrier between the crowd and what you're doing on stage. And I think the same thing happens when you're sitting in front of a camera too. There's a little bit of a barrier, a little bit of a defense,
Yeah.
So I think I'm playing on that, and it's a little bit of a challenge too. So you see that it's a dopamine hit when you see the numbers start to creep up.
Sure.
And I think that's what we're all going for, a little bit of a dopamine hit.
A little bit of a rush, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, without selling guitar.
And you're also doing a bunch of different like personal development stuff. You've been branching out. You've been going through some coaching programs and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about that. Like, what are some of the things that you're using to grow your brand in the future?
Really good question. So, I got the idea from you, actually, the idea of Michael Jordan having a coach his entire life. Here's the greatest basketball player in history. Maybe. That had a coach.
Right.
Same Tom Brady had a coach the whole time. Tiger Woods coached the whole time. So people have coaches. And then the more I start reading and listening to him, like I listened to Jack Canfield and read a bunch of Jack Canfield books. Same thing. He talks about having a coach. So I started seeking out, what can I do? It was actually Jack Canfield was being interviewed by a guy named Jim Harshaw on Jim's podcast, and he has a coaching program called Reveal Your Path. So I reached out to Jim and talked to him, and I started, with a coach and a mastermind group and spreadsheets, goal lists, perfect day, defined things that micro goals, real tangible things that I can start shooting for. And I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how it is. But the thing is taking action. There's, I think, Scott Peck, in one of the Scott Peck books, he talks, you know who Scott M. Peck is? He talks about people being generally lazy. And you know, a little bit of action goes a long way. And then action without direction is kind of like fucking.
Yeah, nutty. It's crazy. I met a bunch of really wealthy people in the last couple of years through some connections that I made. And that's the one thing that I always identify quickly. That most of the time, they're not smarter than me. They don't have anything really that I don't have. All that most of the really, really wealthy people I met had was the ability to immediately take action and not do the paralysis by analysis stuff, not do 87 hours of ROI, not do this, but have an idea, act upon it, the ready, fire, aim,
yeah.
You know, and just figure it out. And if you make a mistake, then great. And, you know, hone it as you go along and get better and make changes. But the worst thing you can do is hesitate and pause. And everyone that just goes at it, sometimes you go broke, but sometimes you hit home runs, you know. And I think that's one of the things that are very common with every successful person I know is the action part of things.
Yeah,
you know,
do it.
To go through for sure. All right, we're going to go in the future real quick. Going into February 2026. Give me a couple of bullet points, a couple of goals, a couple of vision board things that you or one of your businesses are going to accomplish in that time frame.
So I have the house that I'm going to live in. It's going to be on 5 acres.
Okay.
It has a porch wrapped around it.
Okay.
And it's 3,000 square feet.
Is Sandy okay with that?
Modest. Well, she wants the porch.
Okay. She wants the porch. Okay.
I talked to her about it, but it's written down. I literally have my perfect day written down, and where I'm having a coffee and in my kitchen, and you got to
smell it and feel it and taste it. Yeah,
it's there. And it's on 5 acres, and I'm going to have a giant pole barn in the back with a 14-foot door that I could pull my new diesel pusher motorhome into. Okay. And then have a couple garages on the side for, you know, my hot rods.
Is it in Jersey?
It's in Jersey, yeah.
Okay.
I'm dug in Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to, unless I package all the houses.
You're staying there.
That remains to be seen. My coach is actually a venture capital dude. So
nice.
So he's been already spinning those wheels in my head. But one thing I wanted to say too, when you walked up, said hi when I got here tonight, I was looking at 3x5 cards that I have in a pocket in my journal. Mm-hmm. You know, a little spiral journal. And on the 3x5 card, I have written, I'm so happy and so grateful now that I have the freedom to be a philanthropist.
Yeah, man.
That's it. That's it. I read it every single morning because I don't have the freedom to be a philanthropist today. Mm-hmm. But it's coming.
You're on your way. You're on the right path for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And what about you got any bucket list places that you want to go? I know you got the RV and you went across the country a couple of times, but you got any like Europe places or anything that's on your bucket list where like I'm gonna visit here?
I literally have a bucket list written down. I have a note in my phone. I'm trying to get to 100 things on the bucket list.
That's a big bucket list. I'm
up to about 48 things on the bucket list so far. A couple of them I hit last summer. Last summer I jumped off of a 1,000-foot base, jumped off a cliff in Moab, Utah.
Nice.
And
I saw the video.
It's epic.
Awesome.
Yeah, the video's on YouTube. Rated RV, YouTube, rated_RV. That was epic. But yeah, I want to do the Band of Brothers tour of Europe.
So we didn't even talk about your grandpa.
Yeah.
Sure.
So the Band of Brothers tour is you know, you actually go to the spots in Normandy where they jumped, in Saint Mary Glees where they landed, and then you go through Europe and you see where Gramps got the Silver Star on D-Day, taking out the guns that were shooting Omaha Beach, and so you get to see that spot on the farm in Saint Mary Glees, and go into Holland, and then go ultimately to Bastogne where he you know got his leg blown off.
Right.
And to do that kind of stuff is it's bucket list.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're running, and you can still go with the actors. There's a couple of actors that go each year
there
for
and
the
go
tour.
through
Yeah,
it. That's awesome.
And they also in Currahee Mountain in Georgia, they rebuilt the barracks.
Okay.
In Camp Toccoa, where they originally started, the original 152 Toccoa men. they rebuilt the barracks and made a museum down there, an airborne museum. So, we can go check that out.
Yeah,
too.
check that out too. All right. Now your final question. We're going to go with, I'm going music. I am going music because you're a music guy. So I'm going music. Friday night, you can have any musician, performer, band, anyone alive or dead, anyone come to your house.
This week?
This week. You're not going to be there, but next week. And they can play 2 songs. So who's the performer, band that you want to come to your house? And they're playing 2 songs.
It's Randy Rhoads.
Randy Rhoads?
Yeah,
okay.
It's Randy Rhoads.
And he's going to play Suicide Solution and what?
The solo from Mr. Crowley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
It's Randy Rhoads.
It's Randy Rhoads. That would be, without a doubt. You didn't even hesitate.
No.
No.
I think I might even kiss him. he's kind of sexy.
That'd be a good way to go. I mean, you better wait till after he plays it.
Right,
Don't kiss him
right.
before he plays because that might ruin the whole thing. You know what I mean? Awesome, Tim. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome, and we'll be back with the next guest on Mr. Mortgage's Neighborhood.